story begins with two best friends, Lukas and Jan, racing their bikes on a hiking trail. Jan falls and gets hurt, and Lukas becomes worried. They make their way to Lukas's father's cabin in the woods. Lukas notices Jan's wound and decides to dress it, even though he says it is his first time. As he applies a plaster to the injury, Jan cannot take his eyes off him. Without thinking, Jan kisses him. Surprised, Lukas leans back and Jan grows nervous, unsure of what Lukas will do next. Lukas pauses for a moment, then smiles. Jan, no longer hesitating, kisses him again. This time, Lukas kisses him back, and they share a sweet and intimate moment for the first time. After that moment, Lukas asks Jan if he misses Munich. Jan says he doesn't anymore because of Lukas, but he admits that he misses his mother. Jan's mother had died, and he was sent to live with his aunt Helen in the town. Helen is a police officer. As Lukas is about to kiss him, they hear a vehicle approaching the cabin. Anxious, they quickly put on their clothes because Lukas thinks it might be his father. They look through a small hole in the cabin wall and see that it is not Lukas's father, but a group of men with a tied-up man as their captive. The men are members of a biker gang. Thinking the cabin is empty, the gang plans to do their shady business there. Suddenly, the captive frees himself, grabs a gun, and shoots the men, killing them. Shocked by what they see, Lukas finishes dressing quickly, but Jan stands frozen in fear. Lukas urges Jan to hurry so they can escape, but Jan still cannot move. Lukas jumps through a window to get out, then turns back and sees Jan still standing in shock. Without meaning to, he calls Jan's name in a low but urgent voice, which catches the killer's attention. The killer notices two bikes parked outside and realizes someone might be inside. He approaches the cabin. As he gets closer, Lukas escapes through the window, and Jan finally starts to move. Just as Jan is about to get out, the killer bursts through the door and points a gun at him. Before the man can fire, Lukas sneaks up from behind and strikes him on the head with a large stick. The killer falls unconscious. Lukas grabs the gun, fires aimlessly, and he and Jan run away from the cabin. They go to the riverside, not knowing what to do. Lukas throws the gun into the river. Jan, still in shock, slowly lies down on the ground. Lukas lifts him up and asks if he is okay. He then tells Jan that they can never tell anyone they were in the cabin. Jan asks if he is out of his mind, reminding him that people died and they need to tell someone, especially his aunt, who is a police officer. Lukas explains that if the killer, a professional, finds out they spoke to the police, he will come after them. He also says he does not want anyone to know about the romantic moment they shared in the cabin. Lukas pleads with Jan to promise never to tell anyone. The next morning, while Jan is having breakfast with his aunt, she receives a call about an urgent case. Knowing it could be connected to what happened the night before, Jan tries to listen in on the call. As his aunt leaves to attend to the case, Jan calls out to her. He starts to tell her the truth, but hesitates and says something else instead. At school, Lukas tells Jan that his father called and asked if he had been at the cabin, saying that 3 dead bodies were found there. This means the killer survived. Worried, Jan asks Lukas what they are going to do. At Lukas's home, Jan's aunt, Helen, questions him because 2 bicycle tracks were found at the crime scene. She asks him to tell her everything he remembers. Lukas says he was there early in the afternoon and didn't see anything. She then asks if Jan was with him, and he says yes. When she asks how long they stayed, Lukas says they only went there for some beer and left immediately. That same day, Lukas goes to the riverside to retrieve the gun he had thrown into the water on the day of the incident. Later, when Helen gets home and is talking with Jan, he suddenly tells her that he is gay and that he is into guys. She accepts it and says okay, then asks if he wants to talk more about it. Jan replies that it's fine. A few moments later, Lukas knocks at their door wanting to see Jan. Helen smirks, putting two and two together and suspecting that Lukas might be the person Jan is interested in. In Jan's room, the two talk about the case. Jan is worried, but Lukas reassures him that nothing will happen. As they argue, Lukas receives an anonymous message. It contains a video of their intimate moment in the cabin, secretly recorded without their consent. Is someone blackmailing them? Who is it? And what do they want? Watch until the end to find out. In the morning, as Lukas is leaving for school, he meets one of his father's workers, who gives him a strange, suspicious smile. Lukas is confused by the encounter. At school, Lukas tells Jan that he thinks Mirek, his father's employee, is the one who recorded the video and is blackmailing them. Jan is not convinced. When Jan asks if he is sure, Lukas admits it is only a feeling he has. Lukas then asks if Jan's aunt has said anything about the bodies. Jan tells him not to be naive, since his aunt would never discuss her work cases with him. They argue again about the whole situation. The story takes a turn when the killer's daughter, who is a close friend of Jan's, arrives at school. The killer drops her off and gets a feeling that the boys might also be at this school. He enters the building and begins searching for them. Lukas sees him from a distance while heading to gym practice. Recognizing the man, he becomes scared and runs to find Jan. The two of them then try to avoid the killer, hiding and moving through the school corridors. Eventually, they take shelter in the washroom. Jan takes out his phone, intending to call his aunt and tell her everything, but Lukas immediately stops him. Jan reminds Lukas that he had said they would never see the killer again, yet here he is in their school. Lukas tries to reassure him, saying the killer did not see either of them. Jan insists that the killer saw him. Lukas eventually convinces Jan not to call, not to say anything, and that everything will be fine. After some time, the killer finishes searching, and the boys quickly leave. When Lukas returns home, he sees his father talking with members of a biker gang in his workshop. Lukas learns that his father has been involved in shady dealings with them, such as hiding their drugs and carrying out illegal activities in the cabin. The bikers had kidnapped the killer because he was having an affair with the underage daughter of their gang leader. When the bikers got close to exposing him, the killer murdered the girl to prevent being identified. Later, Lukas and Jan meet at their usual spot by the riverside. Jan asks Lukas what his plan is because he wants to return to school. Lukas says he will keep watch for a few days, and if the killer appears, they will go to Helen for help. Until then, he insists Jan should stay low. Jan disagrees. He then asks Lukas if there is another reason he does not want to go to the police. After thinking for a while, Lukas admits that his father is involved in drug business with the bikers. Jan becomes furious and asks how long Lukas has known this. Lukas replies that he only found out today. He begs Jan not to tell anyone because he does not want his father to go to jail. Jan looks at him with frustration and walks away. The killer checks the school's sports website to see if he can find Jan in any pictures or activities. The only photo he finds is of Lukas, but he does not recognize him because Jan was the only one he saw in the cabin before being knocked out. Jan visits his late mother at the cemetery. While waiting for his aunt, who is busy with the case and cannot make it, Lukas arrives to keep him company despite their earlier fight. Jan thanks him for coming, and they talk about Jan's family. As they leave the cemetery, Lukas asks if Jan's mother would have accepted their relationship. Jan replies that she would have, because she was very understanding. Later that day, Lukas confronts Mirek at his father's workshop, demanding that he delete the video of their intimate moment or give it to him. Mirek admits he took the video and says Lukas must pay him 5,000 euros for it. When Lukas says he does not have that kind of money, Mirek tells him to steal it from his father. Lukas refuses. Mirek then threatens to release the video to Lukas's school and sports club. Mirek also asks if they saw anything the night of the crime, knowing they were at the cabin. Lukas does not answer, but his facial expression gives away the truth. Using this to his advantage, Mirek raises his demand to 10,000 euros and gives Lukas until tomorrow to pay. The story takes an unexpected turn. The police chief of the precinct where Helen works is retiring, and his replacement is none other than the killer. The killer is a police detective, just like Helen, but Lukas and John do not know this yet. Lukas and Jan come up with a plan to take the video from Mirek themselves. While Mirek is busy working in the shop, they hide and manage to steal his laptop and phone. They meet at the riverside, where Lukas destroys both devices. Overjoyed by what they have done, he kisses Jan. Later, they settle in Jan's room. Jan still seems worried, and Lukas tries to comfort him, though Jan is not in the mood. Lukas thanks Jan for keeping everything, especially about his father, a secret, and not telling his aunt or the authorities. They then talk and laugh about the whole Mirek situation. The next day, as Lukas leaves home for school, Mirek stops him and demands the return of his laptop and phone. Lukas does not deny taking them. He tells Mirek that it is illegal to record people in intimate moments, and even more illegal to possess such material involving minors. Mirek becomes angry and insists Lukas give him the money because they had a deal. He then reveals that he has another copy of the video. As the confrontation continues, Lukas's father arrives, unaware of what is going on. He tells Mirek to finish his tasks and Lukas to head to school. When Lukas's father asks if something is wrong, Mirek denies it. At school, during class, everyone receives a notification on their phones. To no surprise, it is the intimate video of Lukas and John. Mirek has done exactly what he threatened. He leaked the video to the entire school. When Lukas sees it, he is shocked. Embarrassed by the mockery and hurt by the homophobic comments, he runs out of the classroom. Jan becomes extremely anxious, knowing that now the killer will easily find out who they are, making them vulnerable targets. Lukas goes home, furious and looking for Mirek. His father tells him that the school called and informed him about the incident. Lukas explains that Mirek was the one who leaked the video. When his father asks if it happened on the same night as the crime, Lukas confirms it. In an emotional moment, Lukas questions his father about his dealings with the bikers. His father says he needed the money to take care of both of them. When he asks Lukas if the killer saw him, Lukas begins to cry, and they both break down in tears. Lukas's father then says he has to make some calls. He is going to fix everything. Lukas and John meet again at their usual secret spot. Jan tells Lukas that he should never have listened to him about keeping quiet, and now things are about to get worse for both of them. When Lukas suggests that they should run away to Austria, where his aunt lives, Jan asks if he has gone crazy. Lukas reminds him that this is what Jan had always wanted, to get away from this town. He explains that the killer is a professional, and now that the video is out, they could be targeted at any moment. When Helen calls Jan, he is about to answer, but Lukas stops him. He tells Jan not to say anything to her because some of the police officers are involved, as confirmed by his father when he said he needed to make some calls. Lukas convinces Jan that their best option is to leave Germany and go to Austria. He persuades Jan to pack his things and meet him at his father's workshop. Meanwhile, Helen finds out about the leaked video and how Lukas and John are connected to the killer. At the same time, the killer's daughter, Hannah, sees the leaked video. With good intentions, she shows it to her father and asks if he can get it deleted from the internet because of his profession. After analyzing the video, the killer asks for the boys' names. When Hannah tells him, he notices that Jan's last name sounds familiar. He asks more, and Hannah mentions that Jan's aunt works in the same precinct as him. The killer realizes she is talking about Helen. He tells his daughter that he will take care of it and have the video removed, but in reality, that is not his true intention. Jan packs his luggage and gets ready to meet Lukas. At the same time, Lukas also packs his things, including the gun he took from the scene. As he leaves the house, he overhears Mirek and his father arguing. Mirek is threatening Lukas's father with a knife, demanding all his money. Hearing this, Lukas becomes furious. He takes out the gun and from behind orders Mirek to put the knife down. Mirek quickly knocks the gun out of Lukas's hand and stabs him. In response, Lukas's father shoots Mirek. Meanwhile, John is on his way to Lukas's house along a quiet, lonely road. The killer drives past him, but Jan does not recognize him. The killer makes a U-turn, speeds up, and tries to run Jan over. Just as he is about to, he notices a police car with Helen approaching. He aborts his plan and drives away. Shaken by the near-death experience, Jan hugs Helen in tears. In the car, he tells her everything. Moments later, Lukas's aunt calls Helen to inform her that Lukas has been stabbed. They quickly head to Lukas's house. When they arrive, Lukas is being taken into an ambulance. Jan is filled with sorrow, sadness, and helplessness. Mirek's body is being prepared for investigation, and Lukas's father is taken into custody for questioning. At the hospital, Jan stays by Lukas's bedside. Lukas is given 24/7 security, and Helen instructs the guard in charge that anyone entering must first sign in. The next day, Helen brings Jan to the precinct to identify the killer through a forensic sketch. At first, Jan struggles to recognize him. But eventually, he is able to identify the man because of his deep feelings for Lukas. The forensic artist processes the image for printing. Moments later, Jan receives a call from an unknown number. The caller claims to be Lukas's doctor and says that Lukas is awake and asking to see him. Overjoyed and relieved, Jan believes him without question and rushes to the hospital. In reality, the caller is the killer posing as the doctor, holding a lethal drug in his hand. At the precinct, Helen asks the forensic artist where Jan went. He says he thought Jan was coming to her. He explains that Jan got a call from the hospital about Lukas waking up. Then he hands the finished sketch to Helen. To her shock, it is their new chief, the killer. Helen quietly signals her partner that they need to leave immediately. On their way to the hospital, they piece everything together. They now understand why the case was so hard to solve from the start. Evidence had been hidden and manipulated from the inside. At the hospital, the killer enters Lukas's room disguised as a doctor. He gives Lukas a lethal injection and leaves. Soon after, Lukas becomes hemodynamically unstable, and the monitor in the room starts beeping. The security guard, noticing this and suspecting the doctor who just left, tries to follow him, but the killer manages to escape. At the same time, Jan arrives at the hospital. As the elevator doors open, he bumps into the killer. The killer grabs him, presses a gun to his back, and forces him toward his car. Outside, they encounter the killer's daughter, Hannah, who is shocked and confused by what she sees. Jan is stunned when Hannah calls the man her father. The killer shoves Jan into the car's trunk and locks it. When Hannah asks what he is doing, he tells her to go home, then drives away with Jan still trapped. As the killer leaves, Helen and her partner arrive at the hospital. They pass him on the road and lock eyes with him. Hannah quickly tells them that the killer has taken Jan. Helen makes a sharp U-turn and begins the chase. The pursuit continues for a while until the killer drives into a wooded area. When Helen and her partner arrive, they find the car abandoned, with the killer nowhere in sight. As they step out and approach the trunk to free Jan, the killer, hiding in the bushes, shoots Helen's partner in the leg. Despite this, they manage to get Jan out of the trunk. Helen decides to go after the killer deep into the bush, telling her partner and Jan to stay behind. But Jan, being stubborn, hears gunshots and follows her after some time. Helen and the killer exchange gunfire until they finally come face to face. At that moment, Jan arrives, and all three end up pointing their guns at each other. Eventually, Helen shoots the killer, bringing everything to an end. Three weeks later, Lukas and Jan return to school. Lukas survived, thankfully. At school, some students give them stern and judgmental looks because of their sexuality and everything that happened. Lukas apologizes to John for not listening when he suggested they speak to Helen right away. He then asks Jan to hold his hand so they can walk to class together, openly claiming Jan as his boyfriend for the first time. Jan is overjoyed, and the two of them walk among their classmates, bold and proud. And that is how the story ends. If this series seems familiar to you, that's because it is the third iteration of the original Norwegian Eyewitness series. The first adaptation was the American version, followed by the French version, and now the German version. I preferred the American and French versions because they had more romantic moments between the main characters, compared to the German version, which focused more on the crime aspect of the story. The American and French versions also featured more kisses, whereas the German version had only one. However, one thing I liked more about the German version was how concise it was, with just 4 episodes, so the crime aspect never became boring. If you liked this breakdown, don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe for more content like this.